I agree, in an ideal world we should all be artists, and whether you're a woman or a man or black or white shouldn't be important. But that's not realistic. We're not there yet. So we feel that we need to give special space for the woman artist to explore a woman's experience, and maybe that experience of being a woman does inform your art. Maybe it doesn't. But certainly you should have that option to have that avenue of expression about your experience as a woman. I had been working for 8 years in Europe as a painter and a novelist, and it was very exciting. And then I came back to America with my husband to raise our son, and I was working as an art teacher. And I just felt that my own personal creative life was kind of squashed, and I needed to get it going again. So I saw this workshop called No Limits for Women Artists. It was run by Betsy Damon in New Haven. And I went there with a couple of my friends, and she got us all excited about the Women's Caucus for Art. She said there was a national conference coming up in New York in a few months, so I flew there. I couldn't wait to go. And when I got there, I saw that there were artists who were so exciting. They were pushing the boundaries of art. They were famous. They were working at it all the time. They were not afraid to go into certain issues about art. And I felt this was my tribe. I said, this is where I belong. And because of my enthusiasm, one of the board members then said, oh, why don't you start a chapter in Connecticut? There had been one here, but it went defunct, and so I started the current chapter, and it's 15 years now.
The women's movement had a deep and profound effect on my work, because it gave me the mission of expressing the, digging back into the canons and re-examining them from a contemporary women's feminist perspective.
Lilith.
So the mask was very empowering, because it literally covered that female illusion that the culture had laid on. I just became much more focused on understanding the masks women wear in life. The main problem with women artists is not being taken seriously and not being given venues, which means no opportunity, which means you can't work, which means you don't sell anything.
When you become part of an association, it gives you the opportunity to talk to other artists, particularly to other women artists. It gives you the possibility to exhibit some of your show. We're always, we've done at least 40 exhibits within the last 10 years. Basically, being part of the group gave me the first opportunity to show my work. Like right off the get-go, I had nothing to show until I started creating some pieces and started showing in some of these different shows that we had. I started to get some feedback. I started to meet some other members, and every time that I went to a show, I met some other members. And there were some members that I seemed to have a synergy with, because we had maybe the same kind of motivation. So it gave us a little forum on how to talk about, and some of them are much more advanced. They're women that have been doing the art for a long time.
I've been making art since I was 13. I went to New York. I lived in Long Island, and I went to New York every Saturday, and I learned how to paint with Reginald Marsh at the Art Students League in New York. And I just never stopped. There were a few women who made it. There always were a few, but You could count them on your fingers. I mean, look at the women artists in the Renaissance who never made it because nobody even talked about them until today.
When you join a group like we have, you first of all learn your history, which is extremely important because you are nothing without your history. If you don't know where you came from, you're not going to go very far. So well worn, I've shown this to many classes, the Venus of Willendorf. It's actually very small, but this is the goddess. Women in 50s and 60s, if they were painting at all, they were not painting about giving birth because you would right away be advertising that you were a woman. And remember, that's the hierarchy, that being a woman artist was not a good artist. And that's what the women's art movement changed, was that we looked at who we were as women, what we experienced that was unique to us, and we explored that in a proud and confident way, and not being ashamed of it because, oh, this made us a woman artist and not a real artist. They started honoring women. They decided women had no recognition. So the first honoring ceremony was in the Rose Garden of the White House. Jimmy Carter and Rosalind Carter hosted that. This past year, the fall of 2004, we had Women, Art, and Politics. And that brought out a lot of feeling. A lot of members came to discuss that.
This piece in particular, I think kind of addresses sexual politics, or rather the politics of sex in a relationship and the different ways that we go about trying to achieve positions of power.
The feminine shape on this piece right here basically represents those feminine quality of woman, and the hand holding in the center is representing prayer.
The painting is called Fair and Balanced / Love Your Enemy. I painted this work in 2002, and I put it away because I figured no one's going to want to look at it. It's not going to match their couch.
The title of this painting is called Kitchen Table Politics, which typically means politics having to do with things that people talk about around the kitchen table. This is how women often have to do anything political. If they're involved at all or in any kind of serious work, it often is wedged in with between all of the other important things that they have to do with the peanut butter and the bananas and their mom's medicine and everything else.
I called it Turn the Page. It incorporates the barbed wire imagery as well as an image of a young girl and also of a dead body.
These are my paintings, which are strongly connected to each other. They're very deeply personal statements that I've made about how I get my power from within.
It's your x-axis down here and your y-axis, and it's meant to be evocative of math variables and graphing, where X equals the current administration and Y equals the effect on women's lives.
There is still difficulty for women artists. I think there's a misconception of, or even an association of women artists, hobby makers, craft makers.
My father had a wood shop growing up, so at a young age I was doing power saw and stuff. Was I doing that recreationally for my own pleasure at all times? No, it's just that I'm not intimidated by it. What's great about carving outside is you see sculpture through its form, how light falls on it, the shade and the shadow.
In October 2003, I built a wall of ice for a conference on women, war, and peace. Women from all over the world sent me meditations and prayers reflecting on war and peace, which were embedded in the wall. Grass seed between the blocks of ice kept them from slipping. During the course of the weekend, the wall melted and seeded the grass. The translucent character of the ice and the melting were symbols for tears, my comment on war.
be nice, but then he'll think about something bad, and then he just starts scribbling all over.
Yeah, that's true.
When you have a young daughter that's growing up and says, Mom, I want to be an artist, and the first question out of your mouth is, well, how are you going to make a living at that? What's going to be your fallback? I think we need to get further involved with educational associations and be able to mentor, to then get to the level in high school where they might say, seriously, I really would like to be an artist. I'm an excellent technician of this. I'm a great illustrator, whatever, painter, sculptor, whatever it is. And if they have been empowered, then they will be able to face the world and not become part of the sideline, but become part of the front line.
And for Teresa Heinz Kerry, she would say things like, in the 1950s, I marched against apartheid. And I'm thinking, go girl. And she is very rich. You know how she got to be so rich? Yes, Juan.
The ketchup company, Heinz ketchup, yeah.
Right, she's the ketchup queen. So she has a lot of money, so when she can feel free to speak, but all women should feel free to speak, whether we're rich or poor. And then she spoke in Spanish. Who can read that in Spanish? Yeah, Caroline.
Y a todos los hispanos y los latinos, a todos.
We do want to document. We've been working. We want to have a record of it. We want to have a record of our exhibits, of who exhibited, what was done, visual records, written records, catalogs. We've had lectures. We do now have a website. Our website, WCAConnecticut.org. It's very important that we don't just disappear into history.
I like the idea that it's a national organization and that they do put on interesting juried shows so that you are competing for your place on a national level. We're always helping each other. We're always looking for opportunities for each other. And when we show together, it's like a big party.
It's very supportive, like a sisterhood. I feel like I'm part of the Yaya Sisterhood group, where we really are rooting for each other and making more opportunities for all of us to be seen. It's very hard to get your work out there.
And in this organization, we like to think of ourselves as professional artists, and we want to build some kind of an infrastructure so that our artists are actually moving on in their careers.
I feel that in order to get their attention, or women artists to get the attention to other institutions, is perseverance. I feel that if the work is good and if it speaks, I think that's half the battle there. It's still very difficult. It's a very difficult to even just get an individual show, never mind a group show. I'm hoping that one of these days in the future, maybe 100 years from now, that we don't have to put labels. And I feel that, they're artists, and if they happen to be male, female, gay, straight, black, white, you name it, any color, that the foremost important part that they are creative persons.
I mean, it's work, it's struggle, but you know what, when my daughter was about to get married, or when she fell in love with her now husband, I think I said to the both of them, I said, when you fall in love, that's so that you have the guts later to go through all the difficult times. And that's what it is with art too. The satisfaction, the ecstasy, it's what sustains you through all of the struggle of keeping it all together and continuing. Right? Oftentimes people say to me, what led you to become an artist? And I said, that's not the interesting story. The interesting story is, how is it that you kept on the path?